We're going on that 10-minute walk, getting that vitamin D. It's all about that D. Vitamin D. I hate like bringing this up because almost every day I feel amazing, but there's some days where I feel a little less amazing. And what I've noticed in my lifting and in bodybuilding and doing some of these different things, it's the accumulation of things that you may have done a couple days ago. So it's not necessarily what you did yesterday that you're going to feel today. A lot of times it's like 3-4 days later. It could be a night of drinking. It could be a really hard workout. It could be that you tried something new, or it could just be like general, like stress. I think we make the mistake of forgetting that exercise is a form of stress as well. And we want to work out so hard. So anyway, you know, I've been editing these videos, and just like many of you, like, hard to stay in front and on top of everything all the time, because the need and desire to do the stuff that we're not supposed to do when we're not supposed to do it is strong. So you get sidetracked, and in editing these things and exporting these things and trying to upload them to YouTube and all this crap, it slows me down. I wake up in the middle of the night. Carlos sees the text coming through to send him a photo for a thumbnail and upload these things, and sometimes it doesn't upload because the music for YouTube and blah blah blah. All just excuses, but it does lead to slowing you down. When I woke up today, I felt pretty good, but as the day wore on, I was a little sluggish. I was a little slow in getting to the gym, and when I got to the gym, I did some sprints, took some Mind Bullet. I took some Mind Bullet to get me ready for the workout, and I did some sprints to get me kind of hyped for the workout and warmed up, and boom, I was off to the races and I was good to go. And so sometimes you might feel a little bit in a funk, but the things that you can do and the things that you could do, which don't seem desirable at the moment, are amazing, and they'll flip your brain around. My brother was kind of experiencing something earlier today, and you said you were in a lot of pain, right?
Yeah, I just had a lot of pain. Sometimes it comes and goes. Some days you just wake up and things hurt. But you know, we went through a warm-up, went through a workout. My shoulders still hurt through the whole workout. It killed. But then I just went for a walk, took some Mind Bullet, regrouped a little bit. Now I'm on my second walk. So I'm actually not in the same kind of pain I was before. So I could think, like, if you are in pain, you just got to assess it and work around it, and then wait till it goes away, you know?
We don't like to really, like, you know, fight with people or be overly confrontational, but we are defensive because we really do believe in this diet and the principles of this diet, and we do believe strongly, like, it's turned us into like evangelists of the carnivore diet, basically. Like, we feel like knocking on people's doors, going into their house, throwing out all their carbs, and handing them a bunch of Piedmontese beef and saying, "This is going to change your life, brother. We know it. You need to believe in our Lord and Savior, these giant jacked cows from Piedmontese, and you're going to live a strong, prosperous life." Like, it just has a good, strong, had a good, strong impact on us, and we want to share that out to you guys. But then we hear people like knocking down the diet, and maybe we're guilty of it too. Like, maybe I do take a giant shit on flexible dieting, or if it fits your macros, because I don't believe in some of the principles of it. But really, if I'm thinking about it and I'm being smart, has it helped people? I think it has. You know, I think weighing food and stuff, as much as I kind of hate it as a practice, and I would say that you can spend your time better just learning about nutrition and making better food choices, and then you don't have to weigh things. If I really look at it, it has helped people lose weight. And why do I care how you lost weight? I just want you to lose weight, and I want you to feel great like we're feeling from dropping weight and from getting into a rhythm and learning new disciplines. You know, we sometimes see too, like some of these different podcasters and stuff saying they don't feel like the carnivore diet works, and they'll say, "Oh, you know, you can't just eat meat and be okay." Now, if you're going to say something like that, then we would like to hear how you think you know that, because we don't know it in a direction that we can actually make that as a statement and say we know for a fact that you can only eat meat. But I would also say the same is true the other way around. You don't know, and I don't like people talking about shit that they don't know about.
Well, I love this. So I posted a thing about you. So Carlos showed me the video, the last 10-minute walk video. He said, hey, it already got 3,000 views. I just popped it up. So I figured, hey, let's spread this good information. It's all free information. And I post it, and right away somebody writes, don't believe, well, let's just see how you comment, how you would respond to this. Instagram and YouTube influencers are a joke. Don't take nutritional advice from someone who hasn't been to medical school.
Ah, that's great.
So how would you respond to that?
It's just too funny to even think about, you know? Like that would be like saying, hey, listen, we're not going to take any inventions from people that haven't gone to school for making inventions.
Oh yeah, that's right. Didn't you invent something and make millions of dollars?
Could you?
Wait, aren't you the idiot that invented something and made millions and millions of dollars, and you have a whole gym and a lot, you know, a great happy family to show for it? Aren't you that guy?
Can't you imagine that? Like, could you imagine if we're like, hey, look, man, Edison, that whole light bulb thing, like,
or
you're not accepting it.
Quentin Tarantino's movies are fucking garbage.
Where's his PhD?
He never went to film school, Quentin Tarantino.
Okay,
what the hell?
All right, he's off the team.
I went to film school. Oh, my movies aren't better than Tarantino.
Yeah.
This makes no sense.
Yeah, you know, I think, look, man, the unconventional is where the gold is at, you know? There's a lot of different ways to skin a cat, so to speak. Sorry, vegans. There's a lot of different ways to get the same result. And if you were to think about the people that we admire most in history, normally they're the most unconventional, uncompromising people that we've ever seen.
Where'd Mike O'Hearn go to school to learn to look like that?
I don't remember, but I think he went to the same school that Steve Jobs went to. Yeah. Or maybe, what's that other guy's name? The Microsoft dude. What's that guy?
Yeah. The guys that drop out of school? Yeah.
Dorian Yates? No. Bill Gates? Yeah, hey, Bill Gates.
I went to USC Film School. It's the best film school in the world. I didn't get anything out of it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You make way more money than I do.
Let's make no mistake about it, right? We're no dummies over here. Education is huge. Like getting educated on a topic, that's the only way that you know stuff. That's the only way that you learn stuff. However, I'm going to ask you this question. What's a better way to learn something for sure?
You go through it.
Yeah, you go through it. You go through something really hard. You go through a hard time. How do you teach a dog to stop peeing and pooping on your carpet? You only do it through pain sometimes, right? Some people say, hey, I've never done this to my dog, so I don't have the guts to do it, but like some people say you rub their face in it, right?
When I was in rehab, Richard Tate, the guy who helped me the most, was the most messed up person that I'd ever met. Mm-hmm. He was the worst drug addict that I've ever come across in my entire life. He just happened to figure out how to get past it. But if it wasn't for him, I might not be alive.
Right.
And there are people that worked at that same rehab that just went to college, and when we would have meetings with those people, the real addicts in the room would kind of laugh them out of the room. Oh, they just went to school. They didn't really go through it. They're not an addict. So in the world of addiction, it's actually the opposite. They're like, hey, don't trust anybody that went to school for this. Only trust the people that went through it.
Yeah.
I find that to be really fascinating, you know?
Yeah, there's some issues with school versus education, you know? Unconventional learning and being forced to learn something is magnificent and wonderful. You know, I had to think of things a lot differently because school just didn't work. It didn't work with me. You know, my dad explained to me. He's like, "Hey, Mark, you know what? You shouldn't be so upset." I was crying. Like it took me a long time to do like my math homework and stuff, and I was just super frustrated. And then the waterworks really started pouring when I saw that he was crying, because he wasn't like mad at me or anything. He was just like, "Man, I'm trying to help my son. Like that's your job as a dad or as a parent, is to help your kid, protect them." And he couldn't figure out how to like kind of get me past it. But what he said was really valuable, and it stuck with me forever. He said, "You know what? School only helps out a small subset of people. You got the people, the smartest kids in the class, it ain't doing nothing for them because it's not a good enough stimulus for them. And you got the people in the bottom half of the class, it's not doing much for them either. And you got some people in the middle that are thriving because they're learning and they're moving along." But it's very, it can be great, and it works really well for a lot of people. But conventional education and the way that we learn and the way that we go to school for so many hours and stuff like that, it may not fit. It may not fit a lot of people. It may not fit people that are too brilliant and too kind of like book smart, and it may not fit people like me, but it was fitting a lot of the people in the middle. But what was great for me is like being slow and having patience, and later on I start listening to YouTube videos. Later on I start working on personal development, and then I hear all these weird things that are things that I've always practiced. And it might sound arrogant or cocky, but like he'll tell me about a book, or my dad tells me about a book, and I'm like, I've been doing that for the last 10 years. Or they'll even bring it up to me. Like, hey, I read this book, or I read this thing, or I saw this on a podcast. I know you'd really like it because you're in this personal development. Like, I've been doing that forever. And it's because I was slow
but
that
you
I
just
had to
didn't
be.
write a book about it. That's the only
Yeah, I
difference.
didn't write a book about it. I was like writing my own book, I guess you'd say. But it was because I was like dumb, that I was slow and had to be like calculated, that I end up with a great virtue, which is just to be patient and to take your time and to be like, you know what, if I add A, B, and C, then the other things that I'm doing are going to go down and I'm not going to be good at them. So I'm not making supplements. I'm making knee sleeves. I'm making elbow sleeves. I'm making slingshots. Are you going to make some supplements? No, I'm making knee sleeves. I'm making slingshots. I'm making wrist wraps. Are you making supplements? No, I'm going to take my time. And when the time's right, I will make supplements, and the company will double or triple, and the rest will be history, right? Just taking my time with stuff, and learning in very unconventional ways. Then also having empathy towards when I meet other people, that maybe other people would be like, I'm not wasting my time with that person or listening to that person because they never wrote a book or because they don't have a PhD. I want to absorb all the information. I talked to Joel Green for 3 hours straight on our podcast.
Yeah.
And I didn't ask him until the very end. I was like, what's your education? He's like, I don't really have any. He's like, who cares? He's like, I read a bunch of books and I pay attention to it a lot. Some of the greatest people, Ted Neiman, a bunch of other guys, they're like engineers. I don't think Rob Wolf really like studied a lot of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
A lot of these guys, man, they're absolute geniuses in this space. And it's because of the fact that they're unconventional.
There actually isn't anywhere that you could go. There's nowhere you can go, and there's nothing that you can get that makes you a nutritional expert, really. There really isn't. There's medical school.
He's speaking the truth, people.
There's nutritional courses, but even these nutritional courses and all this stuff designed where all these people went to school, they have limitations, and the limitations are the way that we can study food. We have never studied food in clinical trials in the way that we should in order to have really good information on it.
You want to get your learn on, you go check out stuff from John Berardi. There are people out there that have developed really cool programs that can teach people, and there are people that we do believe in. But also, you can study this stuff and you can spend thousands of dollars, or you can make a decision just to go to the grocery store and only buy meat. Or even just boycott the grocery store altogether and only go to the butcher.
You can spend $0 on a program.
Yeah. And Dr. Baker started like meatrx.com, which is a great resource, and you should check it out. And I got a website, and my brother and I are pumping out information all day long on IG. But you don't even need to know any of that. Like,
it's interesting because
meat, butter, and eggs.
I support
water, salt.
I support MeatRx, and I've been on there like basically to go there to like to drive other people to go there for information. Like, I've never once had to go on there and look up anything. I've never once had to look up information necessarily like on this diet, because there's nothing to. It's so easy.
I guess maybe maybe we haven't maybe we've never explained to you guys like who we are. Like, we come from a really big family, and I never had to really try. I never had to go and really try to learn much of anything. We just have always been throwing a football, learning how to throw a curve with a wiffle ball, learning how to hit a baseball, learning how to shoot three-pointers in basketball, and learning how to do all these things, throw a perfect spiral, or even like lift. Like, we never, later on in our lives, we examine things because we keep more interest in those things. But these are all things that just kind of happen because we come from a big family, and our brother, our cousins, our uncles, we always just did stuff. We're just throwing shit around.
Yeah, and you tend to gravitate like at what you're good at. I tended to gravitate towards like the things that Mad Dog liked that I wasn't necessarily good at, but it's just because like, hey, that's your brother, you just gravitate towards that.
I think I don't know, like what people want to try to, you know, what holes they want to try to poke in our game, but I don't feel that we have any. You know, the diet that we have kind of landed on is a diet that keeps resurfacing and that we've been talking about forever, and it's a diet that was suggested to us probably 25 or 20 years ago, and it's this meat-based diet. And I really like the term meat-based because it doesn't, in order to allow, you know, life's conveniences to happen, it's fun to eat other things here and there, but we do both believe that you can live off of muscle meat the rest of your life and probably not have any issues whatsoever. And maybe there are some variations in there of a few people that could potentially need something, but certainly don't need like an apple pie.
Well, people laugh at me when I say the only fiber you need is muscle fiber, but I truly believe that. I haven't seen any
you just gotta
problems. Look,
man, before you go throwing shit at us, you gotta research it more than we do. We already feel we strongly know. We just know some people that are out of their minds studying this stuff all the time. Ron Penna being one of them. Ron Penna's trying to fucking solve cancer.
The best thing
and he's saying vegetables are useless. There's really no point. He's like, he eats them when they get in the way here and there.
I honestly think that Joe Rogan did it to poke a hole in the game. Like the way that he came out of it so surprised. I think he thought that it might work. Like I think he thought he was like kind of interested in it. But I think he also wanted to say, let me show you that this doesn't work. And then, because he was truly shocked at the results. You know, when he talked about the results, he was like, I can't believe that this didn't have any problems, you know?
Well, I think he's also just genuinely very curious about it. And I haven't seen some of the latest stuff, but you said he's been talking about it a lot more even, right?
Well, yeah, he talked about it with Tom Papa, who we had on yesterday. So Tom Papa brought him bread. He makes this like sourdough bread. He's like another comedian. And so Rogan went off of it. At the very end, he had like one piece of bread. So he said, oh, fuck this carnivore diet. I'm going off. He had one piece of this guy's bread. But then he said, you know, that's what's great about this diet is you can hop right back on. I'm going to have a piece of your bread. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy it with my family tonight. And then I'm going to go right back on a carnivore diet. And the other guy was kind of like couldn't believe it either. He was like, it's interesting because the other guy's a comedian. He's been around the world. He's toured the world. And he didn't know about the all-meat diet. He doesn't know that it could be good for you. But imagine the benefit to that guy's health as he's traveling now and continuing to tour if he tries it. You know, and just the amount of people that I think Rogan can affect is it's outstanding.
I was trying to look. I can't really see who it was, but I was looking at somebody yesterday, some of the information they had yesterday, and I don't know. It's just there's so much information about like lectins and gluten, and I do believe that the gluten stuff was overblown because then you had a lot of gluten-free products being made, but that's not the point in addressing that gluten can be an issue. There's plant lectins and a lot of things that are negatively impacting us, but what I think that people are not realizing, so one thing that I believe that is very true is that when you do a diet for, let's say, 8 weeks, or let's even say like 6 months, which most people would consider a long time, when you consider how long a human being lives, that's not very long. When you consider how long humans have been around, that's not very long at all. I believe, and I believe my brother believes the same thing, is that what you don't eat is actually very, very important as well. It's probably on par with the importance of what you actually eat. But when you eat meat, there's nothing in meat, somebody can try to correct me if I'm wrong, there's nothing in meat that's offensive to your body. There's nothing in meat that's offensive to your metabolism. There's nothing in meat. It's very, very rare for someone to have any conditions where they can't digest meat. It's very rare for someone to be allergic to meat. It can happen. I think there's people that have been bit by some weird tick, and there's some conditions of people having some allergies towards that. But when we talk about autoimmune disorders, which almost, it seems like the entire population has some sort of autoimmune disorder, and those of us who haven't tested positive for one yet probably have one anyway. But it seems like almost every autoimmune disorder is wrapped up in some sort of dietary issue. And almost always the dietary issue comes from carbohydrates. Now, somebody may step in and somebody might say, hey, it's not really just from carbs, it's from an abundance of calories. And that would be fine, I would agree with that. But if we took out the carbohydrates, we wouldn't be in the position that we're in to overeat. I also think that there's a lot of BS going on out there. You got someone like Layne Norton, and we like Layne Norton, we like a lot of the information from him, But sometimes it's like, now he's talking about like reverse dieting. I know he's been talking about it for a while, but now he's saying you can have 600, 700, 800 calories more and you only gain a little bit of weight. I mean, to me, that just kind of makes, when you start to look at stuff like that, you're just like, all of a sudden you're allowed to have more calories now. Like, you've been talking about calories in, calories out. So how is this reverse of everything you've been talking about? How in the world does that really make sense? The truth of it is, I think that everything is a little bit more, it's more simple than we think, and it's more complex than we think. From the outside, it's like, hey man, just eat meat, don't eat carbohydrates, and you're good to go. On the inside, there's probably a lot of weird hormonal things from environment, from genetics, and so on.
I do think that you said, like, Lane has a lot of great information. Where I think it's great is to butt up against, like, when you think something else is false. Like, you think somebody in keto is full of shit. So then you go cross-reference it with Lane, and you find out if he's right or not. And
it's also helped a lot of people lose weight, get control of their diet.
Then you have a lot of people that will say, well, Dr. Saladino is saying that you don't get vitamin C, and he's saying that you do. And there's an argument, do you get vitamin C, do you not get vitamin C? Well, how hard is it to just eat an avocado? It has a lot of potassium, a lot of vitamin C. So I say to listen to a lot of these people and take what makes sense for you and throw it in your diet. And, you know, pretty much they can get that from just listening to you or I, but like, I think other people need to do it as well. That's how we do it. We listen to a lot of experts. We put things together from a lot of different people, but it really only boils down to like 3 or 4 people really that we're really listening to, that we really believe in. Like Dr. Baker's somebody that I've never heard say something that I necessarily like really disagree with, you know, full on. Like the only thing I think is that he says that it can get rid of pain, and I say it's okay for getting rid of pain, but there's more, and I think he would say this too, there's more to it. You know,
well, it's hard to unwind everything that's ever happened to you in your entire life, you know. Like, let's not forget, you know, you're the byproduct of everything you've ever heard, everything you've ever seen, everything you ever thought about yourself, everything you ever thought about somebody else thinking about you. Like, it's really, really, it's crazy. Like, that can be embedded into your shoulder or into your pecs or like into like your heart or your soul or your identity. And it's really, really crazy. And do we think that nutrition can like wipe all that out? Maybe it could over like a long period of time, but we're finding out. And I think really the main thing is just give it a try. Give the diet a try, because really all we're talking about is changing your choices. You know, recently I've been kind of referring to, you know, people having a meat displacement disorder, MDD. When meat is a positive for you, and a lot of the other things that we eat have negatives in it. Even plants have anti-nutrients in them. And I don't want to discourage people from eating plants, but what I do want to discourage people from is not eating enough meat. You really need to eat meat. So if you think it's innocent to have you know, some chips and dip them in some you know, pita and or whatever it is that you dip your pita chips in garbanzo beans or whatever the hell it is that you're eating, you know, you may want to kind of rethink that, and you want to replace that with things that have more nutrition in them. And I could sit here and say this all day long, but only a few of you will listen. I just say, look, man, you know, don't take our word for it. Just go out there and give it a shot, give it a try. Try to start to eat more meat. Try to hit up some 10-minute walks. Don't mess around with fasting in the beginning. If you can work on that strategy later on. Eat your eggs, eat your cheese, eat your bacon.
Can I talk about my fasting? So you know, I wasn't really good with fasting, and I wanted to do more fasting. But now that I've stayed on strict carnivore, I find it really easy to fast pretty much all day. And then at night, if I get hungry, like it's nice because I have a window, like an eating window. And it might only be like 4 hours, but I love that. But I might extend it. Like if I'm hungry, I can literally just eat like 6 hours or 8 hours, because I kind of wait now until 2 or 3 in the afternoon to even start eating. And then when I shut it down, it's just a matter of like when I feel like going to bed.
What about when your mind is crazy and it's just thinking about food? What about you traveled to LA recently where you're just like, F it, man, I'm just gonna, when I feel hungry, I'm just gonna eat?
When I went to LA, this is actually kind of great. I didn't, like, you can get into LA, you can get into spending like 50, 60 bucks a meal easy.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like cruising around to like nice restaurants or whatever.
Beautiful places there.
And so I just said, you know what? Just to keep this easy, I'm going to go to 2 places. Hop Dottie, because my friend's a CEO there, and he hooks me up with free burgers, or fast food. And both places are cheap or free. So to me,
you ate like a king the whole time you were there, probably.
I felt amazing.
Yeah.
I felt great. And I ate at Hop Dottie twice. And then I ate at McDonald's, I ate at Carl's Jr. I think it's funny, I didn't even, like I went to Five Guys once, But I went to McDonald's and Carl's Jr. simply because they were closer and I was hungry. And that was interesting because like I could have traveled out and said, like, let me try to go get something good, but as soon as you stopped the bleeding, as soon as you stopped the hunger, there was no need to get any more food.
Right.
Because I was like, well, I'm only going to get 2 patties at Carl's Jr. because they're not that good, and then I'll go to somewhere else and get more food. But I just didn't even end up getting more food. I didn't need it.
I think that's a great example of like you're just doing something different for a little bit. So why not curtail your diet towards it? Like why? There's no reason to like really be like suffering all the time. The fasting, you know, fasting can really be beneficial and it can be great. But I have skipped through fasting more recently just to like try to add on some size, and I feel good. I feel empowered. I actually feel like I can make a run to bench 500 pounds again. Like I feel awesome, and I've been throwing around 500 pounds in the squat a bunch, and it feels really good. So what happens though on a carnivore diet, this is something to keep in mind, is I have been talking about, and maybe somebody else has talked about this as well, I think you end up with something, rather than intermittent fasting, you end up with inadvertent fasting. Like you're not really trying to fast, but because your food choice was so quality and it had so many nutrients, both macronutrients and micronutrients, you ate at 8 a.m. and didn't need to eat again until after your workout at 1 p.m.
Yeah, I think if people have things like whole eggs or egg yolks, bacon, beef, those things have so many nutrients, it just, you know, fills you up really quick. I had, you know what's amazing is, you ever have like a little treat, like you're traveling and you find something in your bag you forgot you had in there? Remember that bacon and egg yolk bar that Epic makes?
Oh yeah.
I had one of those hiding in my backpack, and I was starving, and I was going through my backpack.
And best tasting thing you ever had in your life?
So I can actually say it was one of the best tasting things I ever had in my life because I wasn't expecting it. So it's a bacon and egg yolk bar from Epic, and it's we're not sponsored by them or anything. I just like them. They have a little bit of carbs in them, like 2 or 3 grams. I think they might put some cranberries in them, but they are tasty.
Epic products are great. I think, you know, a lot of people that are saying the diet's not sustainable, when they're talking about they don't think anyone can stay on the diet. We're staying on it. You know, we're lifers. We're going to be utilizing a meat-based diet from here on out. And if we really think back, I mean, I know for myself, I've been pretty meat-based anyway. Even when I did my bodybuilding show, there was always a nice heaping serving of meat in every single meal that I've had.
Sustainability in that respect is just a sliding scale of how bad do you want it. Like, I don't want to be in pain anymore. I don't want to hurt.
Well,
I don't want to feel like shit.
So, but I also think that people aren't realizing, like, it's very, very hard for us to explain, but meat will give you like willpower. Like it really does. Like when you eat meat, it gives you less cravings. You're less crazy about, because you're replacing a lot of the snacks and a lot of the treats that you have with something that already tastes really good. And just think about, like, let's just say your brain and your stomach, let's say they talk to each other, and they actually do. And some people refer to your stomach as a second brain, but I think your stomach's actually your first brain, because I think that if it came down to me and you surviving, I'd kill you and eat your arm in a second and feed your legs and your guts and your liver and your heart to my family, because that's just the way things are, right? So I think that our stomach can kind of override our decisions. But what if your brain and stomach are going back and forth, and your brain's like, hey man, you know, I'm getting pretty hungry here, and they check the inventory and they're like, oh look, our magnesium, wow, okay, the magnesium stores are totally full. Okay, how about the protein? Did anybody check on protein? Like, oh man, we got protein for days. This guy's been eating it like a maniac. What about fat? Do we have fat? Oh yeah, we got plenty of fat. We're good to go. What about glucose? You know, and maybe at that point, because maybe you haven't had sugar, maybe your body's like, hey, you know, so you said we have protein, right? Let's talk to the guys that have some of that extra amino acids, and let's flip that into something different. Let's turn that into some sugar so we don't bonk and so we don't crash. When your body starts to have everything that you need, your brain starts making better decisions towards your food. It gets to be a lot easier to fast. It gets a lot easier to make decisions. You're not so like ravenous. Like I'll get really, really hungry here and there, but when I'm really hungry, I'm always like, I gotta get some meat. I gotta get some eggs. I gotta get some bone broth. I'm not really thinking about fancy, sexy foods.
It's true though. I said to you, if we went to the grocery store and filled up a cart with what we wanted versus like what we eat, what we actually want, like do eat, it's gonna be so much different. Like we have those cravings. We have all those cravings that everybody else has. We want all those foods, but we've just learned to, when you curtail it enough, you basically don't want those things anymore. You know, you're not seeking the same crowd.
Hopefully you guys are enjoying some of these 10-minute walks. My brother and I were talking about collaborating and coming together. Sorry, I got a little itch in the lat there. We were talking about coming together and creating some more content. So we did a 10-minute walk the other day, and we got, you know, a lot of views on it, a lot of great comments, a lot of thumbs up. So we appreciate that. That's super cool. But I think we're going to come together and start to do some, maybe like a carnivore world news report every week or something like that, or we'll try to be on track with it the best that we can. And Carlos here is going to kind of figure out some things that we can do to make it entertaining, make it fun for you guys, so that way when we're in conversation about something and we'll say, hey man, did you hear what they said over at Mind Pump? Be like, what's the deal with that? And we can talk about it a little bit. We say, let's call up Paul Saladino and see what he has to say. Let's call up our buddy Dr. Sean Baker, and we can call some people, communicate with them. On top of that, we can bring in some of our friends. We got friends that are suffering. We have friends that are having a hard time getting their traction. But how great would it be to put them on the spot, put them on the show, even our own mother. Put her on the show, put her on the spot.
Most of those people that we're friends with, Hottie, Carnivore Chef, those kind of guys, they really love the stuff and actually inspires them to do more also. I think by putting them on it, it gets them to keep moving.
Hey.
And some of you guys too.
Absolutely.
We'll put you guys on it. Like if you guys participate and you know, write good comments and write good questions, and we'll get you on there too.
Yeah, if you hit us up, man, we honestly will just, SuperTraining gym is free. The only requirement that we have is that you come here and hit up a workout. So if you hit up a workout and you work your face off, work your ass off, we'll throw you on the show and we'll get your story out there.
And some people say like, oh, I want to do this, or I want, you know, but I can't, and blah, blah. You know, Hottie, Carnivore Chef, he lost 191 pounds by just following Mark and I, never asked us a question, never really bothered us, never said a peep. And then one day he showed up right here, and he's in the parking lot, like right there. I remember like it was yesterday.
Shaking when he's coming in. He's like, I can't believe I'm here.
He was all nervous, and he was like crazy about it. And
now he's doing a power.
But as soon as he told me his story, I brought him right to Mark, and I said, you need to meet this guy. And Mark's always a little, you know, there's a lot of fans, a lot of craziness going on, so you always go like a little, ah. But then when Mark heard his story, Mark's like, hey, we need you, you know, we need you here all the time. And what was cool to me was like,
he like started working out with us.
Well, you invited him in, which I thought was really cool, and then he said he wanted to do a powerlifting competition. So now Hottie's going to do a powerlifting competition. He's going to be in my movie. He's part of our team. Yep. He's one of our good friends, and he did all this by doing what? Just doing what we say, and then following it, and then coming and saying, hey guys, did I do a good job?
And it's kind of embarrassing because he's been like more dedicated than us. He hasn't had a cheat meal in like 2 years or something.
Dude, he drives me crazy because I can't break him. I'm trying to break him a little bit, just a little bit, and I can't.
We can't hang with him. You know, part of the thing, like when I meet people is, you know, I do get a lot of people that say they want to be this or they say they want to be that, and you know, just to be totally honest, just everyone's full of shit usually. So, you know, I see people for like their soul and not for like what I see in front of me, and it takes me a minute to adjust and get and kind of see the right sides in that person. But like another example is our boy Ken.
Yeah.
Ken's 90 years old. I just dropped a video today on IG of he and I talking. You also can watch it right here on this YouTube channel in my vlog. I think it's day 37 of my Carnivore 100 that I have going on. And he and I got in some good conversation. Gave him the War on Carbs book. He talked about how he used to box. My brother was like, you think you still throw a punch? And he was like, bam! And he threw in a nice jab, but his feet are swollen. He's in pain. He's 90, so we have to, like, you know, try to help him today. Or we caught him eating a muffin. That's 1,100 calories yesterday. Yeah.
But then after, so
you saw him again.
Yeah, a couple hours later, I went back to Phil's. So I was with Sheldon, our dad, and I went back to Phil's. And I saw Ken again, and he's like, I read the book, and then he had a bunch of questions. So it's great because we actually got to him. Whether or not he actually does any of it, whatever, we got to him.
This is just a guy, you know, as the people's coach, like, it's my job to communicate, and like, people probably don't know, but like, I love talking to good people, but I don't like wasting my breath. The most I ever talk is this stuff. Like, my wife and I have conversations, I barely get a word in. I'm by nature more shy and quiet, I guess, but I had to fucking say something if I ever wanted to be anything, right? And so now I'm here in front of you guys, never shutting the hell up. But in meeting Ken and in talking to him, like, I'm super excited to be able to assist him and help him. And I've seen him every day at Phil's. I keep seeing him walk by with his little walker, and I'm like, I was drawn to him. I was like, I need to talk to that guy. And it wasn't like I need something from him or whatever. I was like, I know in my heart that if I go talk to that guy, I can really help him. And last night I'm editing this stuff and I'm crying watching the footage, like legitimately crying, because I realized how embarrassed he was about how much stuff he forgets when he's talking. And he was saying he has dementia and stuff like that. And it was super, super sad. The poor son of a bitch, he lit his sunglasses or his glasses on fire. He thought he had a pot on the stove or something. I don't know how he did that, but like, you know, I felt really bad because he'd put his head down like this and he'd really try to think about what it was he was trying to talk about. I didn't notice it when we were just talking to him, but when I went back to edit it, I realized how many times he did that, and I was like, that's killing me. But the diet can help. The diet can help with dementia. The diet can help with things like that. So we're hoping that we can help out Ken and help out a lot of other people.
And unfortunately, like, even if it's too late for somebody like that, like, I think
it's never too late.
It's
never too late.
Just
edit that out.
Putting in the work. Yeah. And showing people.
That'll feel good.
Well, but like somebody else might see that's 70 who's heading there.
Right.
They're not there yet, right? And like that's what's really important.
We're gonna end this with a great quote from Ken. Ken said, "It's never too late." But he said it in a weird way. He said it's never too late. He's like, when I was 73, I started smoking and I haven't stopped since. Strength is never weakness, weakness is never strength. Catch y'all later.